Hello, MotoAmerica fans. It's time for another episode of Off Track with Carruthers and Bice. You'll laugh, you'll cry, and you may even learn something from this unlikely pair and their special guest. The mic is yours, Paul and Sean.
Hello, everybody. I'm Paul Carruthers, and we're back for another week of Off Track with Carruthers and Bice. I'm in Southern California. Sean's out in Ohio, and today we have a special guest by the name of Max Van. We'll bring him on shortly. He's one of our Junior Cup racers who's going to make a move next year to Twins Cup, so it'll be a good opportunity to chat with him. Okay, Sean, how are you doing out there?
I'm great. Hey, so you're being dominated by, it's funny, Max calls it Mideast, but since I came from New York, I consider this Midwest Ohio, but yeah, Max is up there above me. So he's in the mitten somewhere, I think, but you ever heard anybody call it the mitten, Paul?
No.
Yeah. You ever see
like a glove mitten?
Yeah. Well, it looks like Michigan looks like a mitten, except for the Upper Peninsula, which is where Steve Scheibe lives, but I think Max lives in the mitten, so we're gonna find out about that.
So a mitten has no fingers,
right? And
that's exactly, it's a glove.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, he's in the mitten, and he knows that. Max, it's the mitten, isn't it?
It is the mitten. Yeah. So I forget what hand it is. I don't know. This camera's up. So Detroit, right down here, I'm just a little far north, like 45 minutes north of Detroit. And the Upper Peninsula is shaped like a snowmobile or a motorcycle, if you were to think. So that's kind of that.
Huh, that's right. Interesting. I didn't know this stuff about mittens.
I even see Michiganders who do this thing where you ask where they're from, and they do exactly what Max did. They hold up their hand and they go, well, is that right, Max?
Exactly. That's what we do. But even sometimes, like, of course, there's going to be towns, and I'm like, I have no clue where you're at, dude. Again, but then they just show me on the mitten, and it kind of makes up for it. Because, like, with California, you can't do that. North Ohio's, I don't even know what that's shaped like. So,
shield, I guess.
Do you ever just like point to this finger?
Yeah, good one. Like, that's where I'm from. Take that
one. That's pretty good. So Max, it's high time we had you on. You raced in Junior Cup for quite a while, and now you're going to move up to Super Sport, which is great. And, tell us about it because, well, talk about how long you were in Junior Cup. And I don't want to make it sound like you were there forever. I mean, let's face it, you weren't like Cody Wyman in that respect. I mean, you're not aging out of the class. You're still a very young man. In fact, young for Super Sport, really. So tell us a little bit about that whole jump from Junior Cup. And you're not going to Twins Cup, you're going to Super Sport, as I understand it, right?
Yeah, so I screwed that up.
That's okay. I'm not trying to emphasize that. I'm just, it's a big jump. And it used to be, well, I guess back in the day, we didn't have Junior Cup before MotoAmerica, so it would be Super Sport to start with. But it is a big jump there. So tell us about it a little bit.
Yes, well, I was in Junior Cup for around 3 years. I did 3 rounds in 2020. I kind of I did Weir for a little while. I think I did 5 rounds of that back in 2020. Also, I did a couple in 2019. That's when I really started riding, was around the 2019 era. And then I rode with Blake Davis, and I knew he was jumping up to Junior Cup. I'm like, you know what? He's not that much faster than me. Let's give it a shot. So in 2020, I was able to kind of prove myself with the 3 rounds, and I did 3 years, and I had a good time. But, it's hard having genetics of being built like my father. He's like a 200-pound dude, pretty big. And I'm, I could easily be like that, but I have to do a lot of cardio. I have to slim down. So it's a little hard to, fit onto the Junior Cup, but it taught me a lot, taught me about roll speed. And I think that's really going to transfer over to the Super Sport bike.
Okay. I've got a question regarding Junior Cup before we move on, but you finished third in this year's Junior Cup championship with 4 podiums. And you finished 5th in 2022, but you won 3 races. Which one of those years is actually better? I would think the one where you won races.
The one that I won races was definitely better. This year, I mean, it was short. Having the 6 rounds, I was happy with it because I didn't have to travel as much. I'll say that. I got a girlfriend, everything at home, so it's nice. I work full time. But it was just to the point where, like, I feel like I'm at the track 2 times a summer, and that's it. It was different. But I would say definitely 2021 was a good breakthrough year for me. Because, I mean, it was just getting your first win, getting your first podium. There's nothing like that. Like, there's nothing of crossing the finish line, knowing you finished in second place and you have all these butterflies and jitterbugs flying around. You're like, I get to ride to the podium and I get to stutter and not know what I'm going to say, in the next 10 minutes. So it's going to be cool.
Max, I've never said this to you, so I'm going to say it now. It seems like you had a lot of bad luck, man. You'd have things happen. You'd get up on the podium and suddenly if we found out you weren't on the podium again, I mean, there would be things happening. I felt so bad for you. I mean, I think it even happened before this year, but it happened a couple times this year. And I just felt terrible about it. Did you kind of feel like a little bit you were cursed in some ways at times?
I didn't exactly feel like I was cursed. So it happened at MotoAmerica. I was a little upset, but I was like, you know what, whatever. And then Wayne Rainey, thank you, Wayne, if you're listening to this, he apologized to me about it. Then it happened at Brainerd again, because just controversy. I got third, but then I really didn't. I got fourth. No big deal. But I think, I'm not going to cry, but I'm not going to sit there and, be super upset. It's just going to make it worse for everybody. And then New Jersey came around when I finished third in the championship, but they put me second up on the podium when they did the whole, they bring in after the race. And then when I knew I got third and they put me in second, I was like, I can't reuse these pictures. And that was the biggest downfall. So it was almost like, felt like there was a target, but I knew it's just a simple mistake. And it's just, again, like it happens to the best of us, even the best of the best counting the points. I can't deal with all those numbers on my end. So I'll chill out and just ride the boat.
Well, thanks for being good about that. Cause it is, it's a little embarrassing when I have to tell you, hey, Max, you gotta go, brother.
Yeah, so no ride back to the pit, Paul. I appreciate it.
You gotta do the walk of shame.
It was a hot week too.
Though I will say, Max, for sure sorry, I talked over you. I missed what you said. What'd you say?
I said walking back all sad, just moping a little bit, Made up for it the next day, but
yeah.
But aside from that, whenever that's happened, I've really noticed this with you. You take it. I don't want to say you take it like a man. You take it like a good sportsman. You never got upset. You never publicly showed your emotion, which there's got to be some. So you did a great job every time that happened. And I always admired that about you, that you've always been pretty cool, level-headed. I mean, a couple of years ago, I remember there was that crash with you and Kayla, and you immediately went over to her and tried to make sure she was okay. And I've always felt like you've been a great sportsman on the track. Is that something that is just natural for you, or is it ingrained in you somehow?
So I don't know what it is, but my dad's, he's a big macho man and I kind of want to be like him. But then I have my mom and she kind of raised me to always be courteous in some way, shape or form. And I get that out on the racetrack, you want to be as aggressive as you can. But I don't want to be that guy that's stuffing people and taking people out and not caring. I don't want to be like, let's say Richie Escalante and Josh Sharon at the Daytona 200, last year. You guys saw what happened.
Oh, yeah.
There's no apology in any way, shape or form after that. And I'm just thinking they're like, of course people are going to look up to that guy, but I don't want to be that dude that's like, I don't want to, be out there on track with people. No one wants to ride with me because I do take them out. I'm not going to apologize. I'm just going to blame it on them for being there and just being out there on the track. So yeah, always going to be kind of the nicer guy in my opinion.
That's
okay.
really
I want to know something. We call you Max Van, which I appreciate, by the way, because I'd screw up the other way. But you're not Van and Brock and I don't even know if I didn't say that right. You can correct me when you talk here in a minute, but was that purposeful to just because it's just too long of a name and you just wanted to shorten it up?
It is a little long and it's Van and people say it Van and Brock, Van and Brook. And I say Van and Brook or, Van and Brock, whatever, just kind of depends. But my full name, you guys might not believe this. I'm going to include my middle name. So
oh, please.
Think of me as a prince. If you went down to it.
Yes.
It's Maximilian Xavier Vandenbroek.
Oh my gosh.
That's a long one.
That'd be quite the signature.
I wondered if it was short. So it's Maximilian. I think, Max Flinders is named after Max Biaggi. So I think he was Massimiliano or something. So I don't know. Yeah. So I don't know if Max's name is, can't remember, but Maximilian, which is what I would think it would be, but Xavier as well. Wow.
Yeah. Xavier's cool. And I think my mom came up with my first name. My dad came up with the middle and then the last name, just a last name, of course. But when the teachers would, on the first day of school when I was in like fifth grade, they'd be like Maximilian. I'm like, yup, that's me. Like, yup. Like, don't say Max. I sound fancy right now. Come on, girls, bring it in. It's one of those.
Bring it in.
Bring it in.
It should just be, of course, X-Van would be good.
I know.
Yeah.
No, listen, I'm not Elon Musk. I'm not going to name my kid like XE12 or whatever he did. I'll pass.
So you mentioned your girlfriend a couple times. Clearly, your name is how you got your girlfriend, is what you're telling us. Is that right?
She was like, I remember her name was Maximilian back in 8th grade. So I just decided to shoot you a text again. You look real hot and let's start dating. No, that wasn't it.
I
No.
thought it was the 6-pack.
It could be it. You mean the 8-pack? You mean the 8-pack, Paul?
Eight. Wow.
No.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that because you've mentioned your dad a few times, and I know Brian. I mean, I've talked to him a little bit. He's a little intimidating, I will say that.
He scares me.
Yeah, he's a scare. I have to say, he scares me too.
Okay.
We don't like to get him upset, but anyway, he's ripped, and obviously you must have that in your genes. Plus, he works out a lot, so obviously I see why you're going to be the same way. But you don't have what's your body fat percentage? It's got to be pretty low.
It's probably like a solid 9 right now. It's 9 or 10. Over the winter, like I'm kind of gonna eat what I want. I'm not gonna eat junk food, but like if I want to have, like an extra chicken breast, I'm gonna have the extra chicken breast because I'm hungry. But over the off season, I try to diet down. But right now, I'd say I'm probably like, let's say in between 9 and 11. Depends on like my legs because I carry a lot of fat in my legs. I'm like 159 pounds. I weighed this morning. I weigh myself every day. I'm weird like that. So that's kind of.
Do you train? I mean, are you doing this for racing? Or are you doing this for just your own general fitness? What's the motivation?
It's both, Of course, I want to be fit on the bike, but it's also cool when you wake up in the morning and you just roll out of bed, you check in the mirror, you're like, damn, I look like that. You're like, I look great, and that's kind of part of it. You want to look good before you're getting in the shower. You're like, check that out. You're just doing small things like that. That's kind of the win. So, and also it's a mental thing too, because after you work out for so long and you work out so hard, if you don't do it for a day, you're like, I have no respect for myself. And I'm sure,
Right.
I know, Paul, you work out, you work out. I've seen it. And it's just like, I feel like if I don't run a certain day, or if I don't hit this certain mileage, or if I don't, don't do anything, I'm just like, I'm lazy. I don't know.
Yeah. You're a loser.
Yeah. That's kind of how it is.
Did you see a couple of years ago with Garrett Gerloff? He kind of openly admitted he overtrained a little bit, but he had those crazy arms with the ropey veins on his arms, and he actually went a little crazy with that, and he toned it back this year. Do you ever worry about that overtraining? Do you know? And have you seen that with Garrett?
I have seen it. He looks great, and I mean, but overtraining, that's what I did last year. I would say last year I was a little bit more ripped. I was definitely more ripped. I was, on the leaner end, but I wasn't eating enough food. And when I come into the race weekends, of course, I feel great because, I look great in the morning, but then when I get down to it, I'm like, my endurance just, it's good, but it's not, there because I'm not carbing up, not eating a certain amount of food. But I feel like, on a race bike, like you can have, I'm just going to say this, Jake Gagne, look at Jake Gagne. He's not built like me, or he's not built like Garrett, but he can, he can ride better than any of us, if I'm going to be honest. So I think in the road racing category, all you really have to have is endurance and know how to ride a motorcycle. And you don't have to be shredded in any way, shape, or form. If you got the time on the bike and you ate enough food, you go out there and get her done. That's it.
Well, size and weight obviously is not going to have as big an issue for the super sport bike as it did for Junior Cup.
Yeah. On the super sport bike, I rode it last year. I rode the Team Hammer Gixxer 750 a couple times, and I fit on it well. Let's just say that I felt pretty good. And we're just focused on 2024. New big things.
Yeah, I know you were on that 600, and a few people ask you if it's going to be a 600. I would assume it's probably going to be a 750, maybe, or is that not going to be the case? Obviously, you probably want that extra displacement.
For sure. So last year I rode the 750. I didn't really ride the 600, and I rode an R6 one time. Let's say I got 40 laps into it, but I'm still brand new to this whole thing right now. I'm still using all the track, working on all the roll speed, but the 600s, I'm sure, as you guys know, they have a power band. And if you're not in the power band, there's no power at all. So like when Blake Davis was there and he was running, like, if I'm going to be honest, like 3 seconds a lap faster, 2.5, 3 seconds a lap faster. And when we go into the corners, I'd be like, we're braking at the same time. I'm letting off the lever at the same time. But then he just got on the juice, and I'm sitting there. I'm like, And, I wanted to work on it, but then I had bike problems and I just couldn't, I was down at the We Are GNF and I just couldn't make it happen. We had to go home early because transmission, wasn't having it too much. So it's a big step, and I will be on the 750 for Super Sport next year. 600 is just a practice bike.
Okay, that's a great idea. Yeah. I mean, that 750, It's got just a little bit more jump out of the corners I hear, and obviously, well, the 600. Just to get a little technical for a minute, that 600 is it got an electronic? It doesn't have an electronic throttle on it normally. Did you have that put on it? Okay, you don't.
No,
Yeah,
it didn't. No, it had the domino, but I will say with that electronic throttle on that 750, it feels like there's nothing there because there's no
right.
resistance, there's no anything. So it is a little, like unsettling sometimes. You pin it and you're like, I did not mean to do that, but it worked, so we're here. So just keep it up. Keep it up.
Okay, so look, I see the sign behind you. You're obviously at your dad's place. Do
Yep.
you work there in the off season or the whole year?
I do work.
Oh, there he is.
There he is.
Yeah.
We're scared of you, Brian.
No, everybody's scared of Brian Van. Yeah, he's selling suits right now. He's selling some used suits that were
Selling
worn.
suits, cleaning off the rack, man.
It's going great, Dad. It's going great.
Oh, competitive helmet manufacturers. You're competing Shoei and Bell here. We're gonna have a battle, I think.
Right. Joey for the win. Let's just say that. But yeah, I work here full time, and I'm the sales manager. So whenever I'm, when all the other riders, an excuse on mine, but when they're training and have all day to do their own thing, I'm here working. But I enjoy it. I love talking about motorcycles. Motorcycles are my life. That and working out and my girlfriend. So other than that, if I'm not racing, I'm here. I'm in the gym, and that's it.
Excuse me for my ignorance, but is it a big facility with a lot of storage because stuff gets mailed out? I mean,
for sure. 100%. I mean, we got a lot of inventory. I'll just say that. Got a ton here. It's a lot bigger than some people think. It's a little bit larger than a few people do, and business is always great. So, yeah. We have our own shop right now. What I'm in is we have a video room, and then right behind our video room, we have all of our motorcycles. Right now, we only have one motorcycle, just the R7. We used to have like 5 or 6 back here, but we sold both my 400s, selling our Gixxer 1000, like selling everything. So, because we're just transitioning, getting rid of all the other bikes that I'm not going to be riding. So, yeah.
And Max behind you, that's you on the logo, isn't it? 48.
My dad on the logo. I'm a little. Once I take after this business, I love my father to death, but I think it's time to add a picture of the real MV48, the real minivan, and throw him up on there instead of
get rid of that old guy.
Exactly, get rid of the old guy. It's a new generation.
Well, he doesn't look like he's going anywhere quick.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to point that out. So you're 48, and you obviously took it from your dad. What's the significance of the number, other than your dad had it?
I have no clue. I think it may have been like he was a big fan of maybe Valentino Rossi, and then that number wasn't available at the time because he did race AMA back in, I think it was 2011, but he used 148 because 48 wasn't available. But he just kind of thought of it, and then I asked him, I was like, what number am I going to run when I start truly racing? He's like, you think I'm going to let you use anything other than 48? I'm like, oh, there's the answer to that question. Thanks, Dad. But it's a good looking number, but there's some numbers out there. If it's like 57, if anybody has the number 57, I'm sorry, but it looks all uneven, you know what I mean? But if it's like a 4 and an 8 or a 7 and an 8 or something cool, or like 22, like I think it's Blake's number, that looks good. But something that's like, like 2 numbers that don't even match up, it's like, yeah, looks all right, man.
So tell us a little bit about how this all started. Obviously, you've just told us that your dad raced, and we knew that. As a little kid, did you just start riding motorcycles? Did you start riding dirt bikes or pocket bikes, or how did this all start?
So for my second birthday, my dad bought me a CRF50. But when I was real young, I was scared of these things. Like I was scared of the motor, even though I look at a CRF50 right now, I'm like, my left leg could ride that, But he bought me a CRF50. We rode it together around the neighborhood. That's really all we did. And then when I got to the age of, let's say like 11, or let's say 9 or 10, I started riding the 50 more and more. But all I really did was I rode around my neighborhood like a hoodlum kid, you know what I mean?
On the street.
Yeah, exactly. Doing, illegal things, sorry, Dad, and sorry, Mom. I just want to have some fun. Sorry to the Shelby Township Police Department if I caused you any issues. And then he bought me a CRF 80. And then we had a project bike it was a 2015 Yamaha R3. And I think I was 12 years old. And he was like, you want to try and ride this thing out on the racetrack? And then I rode it around a parking lot. And then that was it. I never rode any minis. I never did any mini moto. I never was nothing serious. It was like, I love motorcycles and I kind of got a passion for it. So let's give it a shot. And now we're here.
Max, when in the beginning of the podcast, when you were showing the mitten, you said something that actually went straight to my heart, and I want to ask you about it. You mentioned snowmobiling, and that's where I got started. I assume you living in Michigan, you snowmobile, right?
Of course we snowmobile. Yeah, we have a few actually back in the shop. Those are back there too. And we just do it as a family thing. Like me, my dad, my mom, my sister, my little sister Sophia, and I, my cousin, my uncle, and then a few local family friends that we just kind of go up. We go up in the UP a lot. That's where I'm going this weekend, just to hang out with my girlfriend. But other than that, yeah, been snowmobiling ever since I can remember. Like when I was 2 years old, I was on the front with my dad riding around, having some fun. So that's it. That's it. Kind of a family fun deal.
Yeah, I mean it's amazing because if you ever talk to John Cornwell, I mean, being Canadian, he had a lot of involvement in snowmobiles. So did Rick Hobbs. Hobbs, our race director. I mean, he's from the Yukon in Canada, so he used to tune snowmobiles and do snowmobile racing. And I know about some of the stuff, Eagle River, or those places where I think they still race those things or something. It's weird. It's weird that Yamaha's not going to have snowmobiles anymore. It's really odd.
I know they partnered up with Articat, and Articat's just Articat, nothing special. Always got to stay away from those things. But it's weird. I think, it's the issue right now is certain areas aren't getting snow where, sleds are popular. So people are like, I don't want to travel all this way up to the Upper Peninsula and drive 7 hours. I want to drive 3 hours to my cabin in the Lower Peninsula. And they're selling them. So it's kind of, but then the snow is moving towards New York and, upstate. So it's getting bigger over there. But yeah, I do think even Honda should come together, and I think it's a cool sport. That's only unfortunately on the northern end of the states. But I think people should they should make one. Give it a shot. Why not have a prototype? And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Um, you know.
It's funny because that seems so foreign to me. Of all the stuff I've ever ridden, I've never ridden a snowmobile.
It's like riding a jet ski. Different.
Yeah, Paul's done a lot of that.
I've
done a ton of that, and I don't know how I haven't been on a jet ski. Well, certainly a stand-up's different, but a sit-down's a little bit more snowmobile like. But even snowmobiles have evolved so much than they used to be. My gosh, back in the days with bogey wheels and stuff, it was all you couldn't really do much. And I don't know if there's much deep powder in Michigan, but some of those snowmobiles now the tracks are incredible on those things.
Oh, they're great. Like back in the day, I don't know when you rode, Sean, but there was like 2 inches of suspension travel on those little docks, and now there's like 6 or 7. It's huge. You can pound things, and not break it. When back in the day you couldn't make it, 25 miles on a gas tank. When now you can go 120. It's cool.
Yeah, exactly. It's really changed a lot. So as far as the motorcycle side of things goes, of course it was your dad, but I don't know. You don't really live near a track, do you?
I live 3 hours away, but that's my home track, and I love that place, and it's a good area, but I just don't ride there a ton. I think last year, other than the MotoAmerica rounds, and this is all the riding I did, I think I did 3 track days, and then I just went to the MotoAmerica race. Like I did one at Barber in March and one at my home track, and where was that? I think that was the 4th of July, and then I did one at Barber at the end of or early September, and that was it. I love motorcycles, and I love racing professionally, but I want to kind of prove to people that you don't need to, put everything you got into this and try and be a champion. Of course, I haven't won a championship yet. I'm going to, of course, in super sport, I'm going to be, a little fish in a big pond. So that's going to be difficult. But I want to prove to people that you don't have to ride every weekend and spend all your money and waste all your time. And, because it's hard to have a nice girlfriend and have her to want to stay around when you're gone all the time,
Right.
So I want to prove to people that it's possible. It's kind of always been my goal that I've thought about ever since I started.
Do you have a goal this first year for where you want to place, where you want to end up at the end of the year, or what are your goals that you want to have?
So we're doing a whole season. I'll be on a good bike. So I'm not going to be on the Vision Wheel M4 SR Suzuki team, but I will be on it'll be an Vision Wheel M4 SR, it'll be their bike, and they'll be supporting it. So any technical information for them. So it's gonna be good for sure. I know I'll be on a good bike, and honestly, top 10, of course, in my first race is a goal, and I think top 10 in the championship is possible, because I've seen other riders that I place a lot better in Junior Cup go up to Super Sport and have no issue. But I think with my size and everything, I think maybe even a top 5 is probably a goal, a finish for sure. And then next year I'll be in Super Sport again, so probably a podium. Podium is the all-time goal.
So yeah, actually, you mentioned M4. It's Team Hammer, obviously, that builds those bikes, and that's the same thing they do for Altus Motorsports with Jarrett Nassani. So you're going to kind of be on similar equipment to what Jarrett has, right?
Exactly. Yeah, it's going to be the same thing. We've been good friends with Chris, so Chris and John over at Team Hammer. I think we've been sponsoring their team. Like our company personally has been helping them out. We've been, have a relationship. It's been 10 years now. So I mean, something in the future was bound to happen, and it's finally happening. So I'm pretty pumped about it for sure.
Does your program is that going to include doing the Daytona 200 or not?
No Daytona 200, no. So putting that together for that to truly come around is 20 grand just to throw, and of course,
Right.
I mean, for sure next year I'm going to do it. That's my plan. But I need time on the super sport bike beforehand. I know my endurance is for sure there to be able to finish at 200, but to keep up with, doing a minute and 50 lap times for what is that, 2 or 3 hours straight, that's pretty hardcore, and I need to build speed before I just, throw myself into there and spend all that money. And yeah.
Probably not a bad idea.
Exactly. CNT Hobbs last year, the rookie to the super sport and doing so well, and knowing that I hopped on the same bike as him at the GNF last year and we did similar lap times, I know that I can, seeing him run, top 5, and remember at Daytona, he was riding real well until like an incident happened. It kind of gives me hope to know that like I can do that.
Yeah, he had a really good season.
He had a great season, like 3 podiums, great spot on the championship. It was impressive for sure.
Yep.
Yeah, that's cool stuff, Max. So, of course, we need to talk about your girlfriend. I mean, come on. You've mentioned her a couple times. You got her.
There we go.
She likes the eye candy. She probably loves that you're a motorcycle racer. Was she in your class in school? Is she younger? Is she near your area?
Listen, so she is near my area. She is a day older than me. She was born on September 21st, so 2005. I'm on the 27th.
Wow.
So, yeah. That's why we're we're going up north to the UP this weekend, the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, spending our birthday. I guess, it's 2 months later or whatever, or a month later than, what our true birthday was. Bert's going to spend the weekend up there. Cause truth be told, if your birthdays are together or that close, you don't need to have separate parties. You can just go up and
save a little money.
Exactly. Yeah. Save a little money. Yeah. Airbnbs ain't cheap. I just found that out last week, but
UP, is it Mackinac Island or are you going somewhere on the mainland?
Mainland for sure. Munising, and honestly, to get from, I'm going to say coast to coast up in the Upper Peninsula, it's only like 3 hours from coast to coast. So you can drive anywhere. And that's what we're going to do. Just going to spend the time up there. It's going to be a little chilly and rainy. Unfortunately, picked a bad weekend, but what can you do about it? And yeah, just going to be a tourist is what I'm going to do. I'm not a big fan of that, but I think I'll enjoy it because I'm with her and it's just going to be a good time.
Well, very nice. Listen, if you go to Iron Mountain, Michigan in the Upper Peninsula, there's an amazing ski jump there. They have a ski jump competition every year. And if you're in that town, make sure you look up Steve Scheibe. I'm sure he would love to see it because I don't think he gets a lot of visitors in Iron Mountain, Michigan. Do you know where that is?
We've driven through it for sure.
Okay.
I don't remember where it is. I thought he was from Wisconsin. I had no clue he was from Michigan.
Yeah, people from the UP, you sometimes wonder, right? It seems like they are an extension of Wisconsin, but yeah, he's a Michigander for sure. But yeah, Iron Mountain is where he's located. So it's weird about that state. It took me to move to Ohio to realize it's like 2 different places. Do you guys have any rivalry with the UP? Do you think of it as a different place? I mean, what's the feeling among Michiganders about that?
So when you go up there, they're all dressed and of course like lumberjack looking dudes and everything. And I'm like a pretty little kid. My teeth are white. My face is always shaved, and I'm wearing these tight little skinny pants. And they're like, "Man, you must be I forget what they call it, but we call them Youpers up there. They just tell me you must be
Youpers. Right.
Yeah, man, I'm not from here, dude. I don't chop wood for a living. I sell motorcycle parts. So.
They talk funny too. Their accent is completely different than you.
It is different. It is different for sure. But another thing about the UP is if you look at the map, because I know Paul is gonna look up the Upper Peninsula of Michigan as soon as we finish this podcast. It's connected to Wisconsin.
Yes.
And it has no relation to Michigan at all. So how Michigan won that battle? It's got to be some strong dudes in Michigan, if I'm going to be honest here. I don't know if that was like, this is my mainland. I found it. It's not yours anymore. or it's not going to be good. It's kind of an all-out brawl, as as Greg White would say. I'm sure it was an absolute barn burner.
Absolute barn burner. Yeah.
But you mentioned about home track. Is your home track Road America?
It's Grattan Raceway. So
Grattan, yes.
That track, I mean, it's nothing like Road America. Like if any MotoAmerica rider went there, they'd probably be like, this is the most fun track I've ever ran, but the bathrooms, that's
Is
kind
that
of
right?
Yeah. The pavement, they just repaved it this year. It's great. It's got a ton of grip, but it's probably one of the most sketchy tracks you'll ever ride because just it's so blind. It's the most physical track I've ever ridden. Like I would compare it to a track like VIR. Like VIR is pretty gnarly. That's a good course. It's kind of like the Ridge. It's like a mix of VIR and the Ridge.
We just don't have enough air fence, I guess.
Yeah.
But no air fence at all. There's a big tire wall and a big gravel pit. I'll say that.
That track, I think, and you may know this, I thought they did one of the Build Train Race women trained at Grattan. I think they went to a track day there, didn't they?
Yeah, they did go up there. They did go up there and they had a good time with our friends over at Sport Bike Track Time. But yeah, I think back, I don't know if it was last year or the year prior. I think it was 2022. They all went up there and kind of did their own thing with Melissa Pear. So it was cool to have them up there and see them riding and stuff. And that's an impressive class for sure because you got to build your own deal. And some of these girls are kindergarten math teachers and like, yeah, you want to ride a motorcycle? You want to race it professionally? And they're like, all right, signed up for it.
Hey, you touched on something. I'm glad you mentioned it. In the very beginning of when you guys first came in the paddock, and particularly when you guys were sponsoring Junior Cup, there was a time where it took a little adjustment for us to make sure we didn't say Sport Bike Track Time. Tell us about Sport Bike Track Time versus Sport Bike Track Gear. Is there a relationship?
So there's not exactly a relationship at all. It's kind of weird to think of. But so the owner of Sport Bike Track Time, a good friend of ours, is Richard Harris. But I think there was a couple named Monty and Bonnie. My dad was friends in a friend group with Richard Harris, him, and then of course that couple. And they owned, so Monty and Bonnie owned Sport Bike Track Time. But Monty, and I'm pretty sure it was Monty was the man's name. He always went into he always wanted to have a retail store. He loved the track time, but he always wanted to have a retail store. So they kind of got into this deal where Richard took over Sport Bike Track Time, and Monty and Bonnie, I think they both put they both put money into, and so did my dad, into creating this business. And I think that was back in 2005, and we opened it up in my dad's garage selling VMAR and Scorpion helmets, and now we're here selling more things than I know about, unfortunately. But I guess it's a good thing.
So Max, because you're sales manager, right? Am I right?
Yep.
Okay. So let's talk about this. Do you find yourself recommending equipment? Well, not of course to customers, but when you're at the track, do you talk to other riders about what to get and how to get it and all that?
Of course, like if someone has a gearing question, I'm not going to lie to you. Like I didn't care if it was my friend Avery. Of course, I couldn't help out Rossi Moore too on KTM. But like if someone came up to me and they're like, what gearing are you running? Of course, there's going to be that spot in my mind. Like, they could probably beat me, but it's a maybe. I'll just give it to them because honestly, may the best rider win. Let's have a good time. But of course, on my salesman end of the part, I'm like, yeah, have your dad hit me up and I'll give him a discount. I'll sell you these discounts. We'll be good. We'll be good next week.
Well, it's funny. You actually went right to gearing, which is a good answer. Something I did wonder about. But I'm talking about like your gear, like leathers, helmet. Do you ever find yourself saying about recommending leathers, recommending a helmet or type of boots, or if somebody has a problem with a fit or whatever?
For sure, to anybody, because like I've dealt with so many customers and I talk to over 100 guys a day. Of course it's different questions and different calls, but a lot of it's like, what size suit am I going to get? And I know like basically off the top of my head, if what your weight and your height is and how you're riding, and if you want to be a tighter race fit or more of a comfort fit, like you're riding on the street, I know exactly what size suit you're going to wear. So there's a ton of that, and I help out with a lot of course, like the older Twins Cup guys, they have those questions, but a lot of these young racers have like up and coming suit apparel companies, But other than that, or if any technical question, or if you need your showy helmet shield change, I'm on my way. I'm on my way.
Well, and the other thing I want to know too, and you were great when we did a social media post recently with the guys doing push-ups, and you picked up on it perfectly. And I mentioned you as being a crazy person, and you know what I meant by that. So I think you're the originator of getting these guys to do the push-ups. Where did that come from? What's that all about? Explain that to us.
Man, I don't know what happened, but like I, I went on a rave last year and I kind of chilled out with it now, but I would do close to like it was like 750 to 1,000 push-ups a day. And I'm not kidding. I don't have a massive chest from it, but but it was just I was a big fan of push-ups, and my whole motto was more push-ups, more push-ups, more push-ups. Like I'd wake up and I'd knock out 250 in like 5-10 minutes. Like that was my thing. So I kind of realized, I was like, you know what? I was like, maybe the cameras will be on us. So I guess I got in a group. I did it in race 1 too, but nobody saw it. But in race 2, I was like, yeah, I got a good finish. I was like, let's see if these dudes will knock out 20, 30 for me. And we did it. And then the post came up.
So
Perfect.
what do you tell these guys, hey, you guys have to do push-ups because of something? Are you punishing them? Are you motivating them? What are you doing?
Oh, it's more of a motivation thing. I'll say for sure, more of like a David Goggins, who's going to carry the boats and the logs kind of deal.
Oh, that's what I didn't understand what that meant when you said logs and boats. So tell us about that.
David Goggins. So that dude's an animal. Let's just start off there. He's like a Moab 240 runner, does a lot of long distance deals with running. I love running, but running 240 miles, man, I don't know how you can do that. That's screw it, man. I'll stick with like 13 or 15. But yeah, you always kind of want to have that dog mentality. You want to have that, like, of course you want to have, like, I got that dog in me. I know Hayden Deegan over in the Supercross was saying that this year. That kind of always goes through my mind. So at the end of the race, I was like, again, let's see if these dudes, if I start cranking out 20, 25 push-ups with my suit on, let's see if they'll come over and crank out a few with me too. And that was it. And then I kind of got me all pumped up because I see Avery and Chase Black, and then Yandel does the burnout. So that kind of, it's cool to share that moment with those guys. Other than racing on the track, kind of got to have some fun and mess around too. So.
Yeah, I mean, we got a ton of engagement with that post. Everybody was digging it. I mean, it got a lot of likes. So I don't know if you noticed that or not, but it was cool. So we'll have to show that more often.
Yeah, it was a good time. And I'll say next year, if somehow I get a super sport podium, God, I'll do 100 in my race suit. I'll drop down. I'll do it. Hannah Lopa is going to have to wait. I'm sorry, Hannah. But I think it's impressive if you see an 18-year-old kid, dropping down and giving you 100 in his leathers. And I'll do it for sure. I'll say it now, guys.
So a couple of years ago, you had Joseph Lamandry with your team, and teammates have advantages. Now that you're in Supersport, will you have a teammate? Have you talked about that? Or are you just going to go it alone? But you're actually an ad hoc teammate, maybe of Jarrett, certainly of the Supersport riders on M4 X-Star Suzuki. So maybe that's your teammates. Tell us about that a little bit.
So of course, I'm not doing any teammates this year, but I'm gonna want to beat the people. If I'm riding the same bike as Tyler, Tyler's a little bit faster than me right now. It sucks, but I'm gonna try my best to figure it out. And I'm always gonna want to be out there, knowing that I'm always gonna be out there, knowing I'm on the same bike as him, and like this bike is able to go a second faster. So Max, man up, figure it out, get on the gas earlier. If you crash, you crash. Your dad's gonna fix it no matter what. Yeah, so I'm always gonna want to have that for sure. Like, if this bike's going a second faster, I'm going to make it go a second faster. And that's going to be it.
So one thing I want to talk about, Max, you're very well spoken. I always notice when you're on camera, you do a good job with eye contact. You've obviously got training on that. You work out. You're a great rider. Down the road, it seems like you have a place in the MotoAmerica paddock for well beyond you as being on the track. And I'm not trying to end your career early. You're young. Yeah. But project forward, do you see yourself being involved in MotoAmerica, or certainly you're going to be involved with sport bike track gear? What do you see as in your future?
As I get older, of course I want to race super sport. The goal is 2 years, and we'll see how that goes. I'm always going to ride. I'm definitely, most likely every year the goal is going to be like to do a one-off MotoAmerica race. If I'm going to go to, say I'm real fast at Barber, let's say I'm going to go to Barber and I'm in contention to get the podium, that's the track that I'm going to go to. Of course, I want to continue in the MotoAmerica paddock. We'll always be sponsoring a team, and that's most likely going to be, Chris and John Ulrich, the Team Hammer. But, I love racing and it's a great time, but, spending time with family, I like to get down to it. But with this opportunity I have this year to get a podium, of course, I'm going to be racing against, Tyler Scott, maybe Sean Dillon Kelly comes back. I don't know what PJ's doing next year. I'll race against, who knows, maybe another crazy Ducati guy is going to come from Europe. Having that chance to race against those dudes, I'm not going to pass it up. I'm going to learn everything that I can. And like I said, I'm going to push for a podium. Whatever happens, happens. If I hurt myself out there on the track, I'll get up, and try again the next day. We'll just give it a shot.
Okay, we're going to get ready to wrap up here, but one more thing for me. Paul knows this. I like to recognize the girlfriends and the moms and stuff. So we talked about your girlfriend. We didn't hear her name. Give her a shout out.
So Alexis, I hope you're doing well. I hope your college exam was amazing. I hope you didn't fail it. And you're going to have a great weekend up in the UP. So yeah.
All right. Now I want to talk about your mom a little bit, because I know her name is Marcine. I'm right about that, aren't I? Yes. Yeah. So I need to find out, and with your dad not on here, do you know, how did your mom and dad meet? Is she from Michigan too? Were they classmates?
So no, they were not classmates. This might sound weird. She is, I forget, I think she's 40 years old. My dad's 53 or turning 53.
Hey.
So yeah, part of that reminds me, like, yeah, my dad was graduating high school. My mom was in kindergarten, but I guess it works out. So, but yeah, they met, I think, at a bar one night. And then from there, that might sound like, iconic. Nowadays it's Tinder for everybody, Tinder and Bumble. But from there, I think it was 15 years ago. Now it's history, having a good time.
Yeah, I mean, I love your family. You guys are all motivated, and I know your mom from seeing her in the paddock. So, like I said, I just wanted to give a shout out to her. And I sometimes miss the fact that we just end it with Van. We don't say Vandenbroek. I kind of want to keep going with that, because I like Dutch people, so that's all good. Do you know what your name means?
No, I have no clue, to be honest.
Okay.
Yeah, grandfather came over from I think it was Belgium, and then from there, that was it. All I know is Maximilian's a super cool name, and if you guys want to call me that too, Maximilian Xavier, that would be awesome.
We're gonna definitely do that.
Yeah,
that's funny.
Actually, your initials are Mav. No, it's MX. It's not it. It's not Xavier. Sorry. I can't spell. Sorry. All right, man. Well, listen, is there anything we left on the table? Anything else you want to talk about before we let you go?
Well, of course, I want to thank you guys for putting on a great series. I mean, last year it's a ton of fun. This year is going to be even better, I know, because you guys just improve every year. But I want to thank my parents, my mom, my dad, my girlfriend, my sister for all their support, and everybody who's bought something from Sport Bike Track Gear throughout the past 17 years or 18 years of us being open. Thank you. That's the reason why I'm out here fulfilling my dreams, and I hope to make you guys proud in the upcoming 2024 season.
That's awesome.
True. Yeah, and listen, Max, we're only as great as our riders. You guys are the fuel that keeps us going. So we appreciate you guys just as much as you appreciate us, and we'll just work together and keep it going for forever. Let's just do it. But thanks for being on with Paul and me. Like I told you, I think when I was messaging, it's about damn time we got you on. So you're in, and we'll see you. Before we know it, not at Daytona, but at Road Atlanta, Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta for the next round.
I'll be at Daytona just to have myself out there for sure. I just want to have a good time. And if I want to go there next year, I want to, be able to experience the track beforehand. But yeah, I'll see you guys there, and also at Road Atlanta. It'll be a good time.
All right. Thanks, Max. Have a nice weekend.
Thanks, Max.
See you guys. Thank you.
Okay.